Good evening and welcome to the show. Tonight, the crime continues as crime skyrockets in the released Los Angeles game. Politicians join in. We have the latest on what's going on within our country's first city. Also tonight, racism in Ukraine, with the United Kingdom pulling out of the war due to racist comments made by a Ukrainian military and government official. We have the latest from both parties on the incident tonight. And finally, Democracy 2020, with presidential candidate Behan Filipino naming his vice presidential running mate, and new polls that are coming out tonight. We have the latest on the upcoming elections in just 4 days. All that and more starts right now. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Parker Jackson Show. And as always, I am your host, Parker Jackson. We are back with another week of shows for you tonight that should not disappoint with the presidential election this Friday, so stay with the Parker Jackson Show and MSNBC for in-depth coverage all week. Let's get into the open for tonight. The nation of Ukraine is receiving backlash from allied nations tonight after racism was uncovered within its military and government. This comes as the United States joined the war assisting our Ukrainian allies on Friday. With the backlash growing, the United Kingdom is withdrawing aid to the nation, stating, "While we may not support the invasion of Ukraine, we cannot defend a country rife with Nazism. Therefore, we will be pulling out of the war and withdrawing all British troops from Ukraine." We then reached out to the Ukrainian government and they responded, "Although their withdrawal is regrettable, we understand their reasoning and purpose behind it. If that's what they think is best, we support them in doing so and wish them best in the future." This comes as the United States declared war on the Russian Federation Friday to assist our allies in Ukraine. It's been 3 days and now heading into the fourth day since that declaration, but yet no troops have been deployed to Ukraine to fight in the ongoing war. In a statement from the Department of Defense, they stated that as of now, the Secretary of Defense was still drafting war terms and continues to tonight. So the question is, why have these terms not been made faster, and is there a reason behind it? Also tonight, crime has been skyrocketing in Los Angeles after it was released. This comes as over the weekend, presidential candidate a con artist was charged by the FBI after going on a crime spree within 24 hours after it was released. When our show reached out to the FBI for further comment, they responded saying that the Federal Bureau of Investigation cannot currently comment on ongoing investigations, but I can tell you that charges have been filed with the U.S. Attorney's Office from our Criminal Investigative Division. Finally, tonight, along with the first major presidential election, is just under 4 days away, and presidential candidate Armand Foley is having a major lead in the polls tonight. In a new poll released yesterday, 64 people voted in favor of Foley, with just 30 votes going to combined Behan Filipino and con artist. Be sure to stay with MSNBC for full-time coverage Friday night for the presidential elections. And that's going to wrap up my open tonight. And joining me now is Lundis01, and he is the congressman and has introduced a new bill to make sure our leaders will actually be held accountable for contributing to crime. Good evening, Lundis. Can you hear me, Lundis? You there, Lundis? All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have Lundis on the phone with us. We'll be right back. and welcome back to the Parker Jackson Show. After technical difficulties, we have Congressman Lundis on the phone, and he is here to talk about his new legislation that he introduced to help hold our officials accountable. Good evening, Lundis.
Good evening.
So, I guess give us the overall breakdown of what your bill means.
Yeah, so I proposed this bill yesterday, actually, and pretty much the whole purpose of it was, in spite of all of the recent attacks on and all the crime on Los Angeles, we found as a Congress that the main, people responsible are politicians, especially like con artists and other people such as that. And in our opinion, we do not want people who, so recklessly go around and cause mayhem to, be elected to public office. So what my bill says, it states very clearly that, if you commit 2 offenses of any kind on Los Angeles, you are restricted from running for president of the United States, serving on the presidential cabinet, or being the vice president. If you commit 3 offenses, you are barred from all sort of public office, that being, United States Senate, House of Representatives, so on and so forth. So it's very simple. I think it's very, logical. I think that everyone should agree with it, and we'll vote on it next session.
What type of support do you have for this bill?
My entire caucus. I kind of proposed this bill to the entire GOP, and so far, everyone's been very supportive of it. Members of the GOP in the House have been saying, yeah, this is something that we as a party should, that's what we've done.
Yeah, indeed. And I guess this is one of the newly formed bills that you just made. Do you believe that this will help deter crime or bring the crime down in Los Angeles? Because there's been a crime spree recently since the release date. Do you think that'll help bring it down tonight?
Well, I do. I think that a lot of people in this group are, they want to run for public office. And I think that it's a great deterrent to have that, hey, you should stop causing all this trouble on Los Angeles. And, if you want to become an elected official, then, you should act like an elected official and not do what people like con artists are doing.
Yeah, indeed. And a question that we're going to be asking our guests throughout the week on this show is about the presidential election. In your eyes, who do you see winning the presidential election, and who do you think is the best fit for president of the United States?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I saw a display of the last week of polls, and it's been pretty drastic that Bayan has completely fallen off. I think that a con artist, he's making up ground, but he still has he still has a long way to go. And elections are coming up; they're right around the corner. Um, Currently, I see Armand Foley winning this very easily. I mean, not to say that Akon can't sneak past it or sneak a fast one, but Akon artist, he's not there yet. And Bayan Filipino is his ratings have gone in the toilet. I mean, of course, he was hospitalized and he couldn't campaign, and that's had a very big effect on his presidency. So I believe that Armand Foley, he is fit for office. I think that he has a lot of experience, and I think that he is the best candidate. I also think he is the candidate that will win.
Yeah, I could agree with you on that. Do you think that because of Akon artist's actions, he's lost even more support than he had?
I think he has. It's been pretty outspoken. All of the events that have happened with Akon artists have been completely, you know, portrayed over social media through all these news networks, and I think that a lot of people have started to lose support, or have started to, stop supporting econ artists and support people like Armand Foley. So, so I think, yeah, I think that it has a negative effect on his polling numbers.
Yeah, indeed. And thank you so much for coming on, Linda. It's always great talking to you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, everybody. Coming up after his second disastrous press conference in a row, we're going to be speaking to the White House press secretary on what is actually going on. We'll be right back. and welcome back to the Parker Jackson Show. Joining me over the phone now is the White House Press Secretary. Um, Good evening, Lion Claw. Can you hear me there, Lion?
Hey,
All right. So Lion, let's just go ahead and get into it. I mean, the second press conference you held was a disaster on top of the first one. There's calls for your resignation tonight. How are you responding to all of this?
I think it's a marathon. You win some, you lose some. But most of all, I think it's just a shame that most people are focusing on me trying to remove hecklers from the stage more than the hecklers themselves rushing the stage. I think it's a shame that you have a presidential candidate, Armand Foley, and you have news broadcasters, in some cases, news founders, acting that way at a press briefing, and it garners no attention at all from the media.
So let's just go ahead and talk about this. People are calling for your resignation. Do you plan on resigning?
I don't plan on resigning anytime soon. I think it's all just cannon fodder. I think it's all uh, just ooze from the mouth for some of these people. I think we can make some great progress. I got some of the key points of the president unfolded, and I showcased them to the press yesterday, such as his bill package for expanding the DoD, and it's especially important in times with war with Russia and the Russia-Ukraine crisis. And also his plans for proposing bills to Congress to expand law enforcement. So I don't think that it was a failure at all. I do disagree with the premise of the questions.
Yeah, now let's talk about the Russian-Ukrainian situation going on. Earlier in my open, I reported that the United Kingdom had pulled troops out of Ukraine due to the whole country's high leaders being exposed for Nazism and stuff around there. How is the White House responding to that? Do y'all have any plans to not send any troops now after those comments and those pictures were leaked to the public? How are y'all responding to that?
It is it's heartbreaking to a point, but we will support any democracy that comes under attack. Now, we do not condone, Nazism or any type of hate towards anyone. And the White House is closely following these events. We're closely following it to see if we have to reevaluate our alliance and to see if this is just another point of Russian propaganda coming out of the Russian media.
Now, another thing I want to touch on is our troop deployment. On Friday, in a joint session of Congress, everybody but one person voted to declare war and deploy our troops. But honestly, what's the holdup? Because we have yet to put boots on the ground in Ukraine, and Russia continues to take over their land. What's the holdup there?
So you've heard from the DoD about the task force that is being assembled, coalition. I don't think it is in fully. I don't think it's fully finished yet to be put in action. I think the DoD is still working. I had close contact with our Secretary of Defense. He is working hard to ensure that we have the boots on the ground to win this war, and we have the numbers, we have the men. We're working on building a coalition, adding more men, getting them active so that we can confront Russia and defend democracy in Europe.
So I've been asking this for days now. When will the troops be on ground? Is there a set date yet, or what's really going on here? Because the Ukrainians need our help, and we have yet to send any aid.
I do not have a clear date from when we're going to send troops for a deadline when we're going to send troops. I do not have a clear date, but we definitely expect troops to be on the ground, boots to be on the ground, Europe to be being defended very soon. We're all in to defend democracy. We're all in to defend liberal order. Uh, International law must be upheld. Ukraine is a sovereign nation, and Russia is not Ukraine. Ukraine is not Russia. Ukraine belongs to Ukraine. That's the clear message that comes out of the DOD, the Department of State, and the White House tonight.
Is at any point, has at any point throughout this, has the president considered not sending troops in? Has he been getting cold feet?
I have not heard of any cold feet from the president. I do believe he is committed.
Okay, and I guess the last question, we're going to be asking this to our guests all week. Your president, or whoever, Mahan, has been very far behind in the polls. He's struggling. He's struggling to even just get 20 votes in the polls that were sent out today. Uh, are you still confident that he can win this election?
We will accept, and I've said this before to this very same question on your show. The White House isn't really worried about that. We have a slur of issues we're worrying about: the Russia-Ukraine crisis. We're worried about getting nominees through Congress. We're worried about proposing bills and packages, like I have previously just talked about, through Congress. So, but we will accept any result. No result is we will believe will be rigged or tampered with. It is the clear resolve of the American people, and it must be respected.
Yeah, indeed. And I guess we're just gonna actually. I have one more question for you, and my producer's gonna be mad at me, but I just want to ask this. We're getting reports that Congress is thinking about investigating you. Um, have you heard anything about that?
No, no, I have not heard anything about that. Now, of course, I really would prefer that would not happen. I really wish that we would not politicize the press room. The press room should never be politicized. It should be a stadium, a voice for the American people to know the progress that their administration is in, the steps that their administration is taking in order to better their lives. So I really hope that Congress is not taking this moment, taking all that's going on with Russia and Ukraine, all these nominees, what the president is trying to get passed, and just reducing it to atoms for a partisan investigation. I really hope that's not the case.
All right, you heard it here. Press Secretary Lion Claws. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
All right, guys. When we come back, we're wrapping up the show with the wrap, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. It's now time to wrap up the show with our new segment, The Wrap. In this segment, we're just going to be talking about our final thoughts of the night, and we're going to send it over to Michael Smith after. So, I guess the wrap for tonight is, with elections coming up, you never really know who can be elected tonight. I would predict that Armand Foley gets elected because his polling, he has very good standings with everybody in the country. He hasn't pissed off anybody like Akon artists going and shooting up the bank at Los Angeles the first day it was even open. And then you have Ban, who's been struggling severely in the polls, who really didn't campaign because he was in the hospital. So also, we're going to have to be paying attention to the Ukraine crisis because as it continues, we still have yet to even put troops on the ground, and I find that very concerning for the Ukrainians that we call allies. So yeah, that's the wrap for tonight. Also, be sure to stay with MSNBC throughout the week because we're going to have shows, I believe, every day this week leading up to the presidential election on Friday. And then on Friday, we'll have our full election 2022 coverage. I don't know what time that's starting, but stay with MSNBC as we get those times out. I think my producer is telling me 7:45 on Friday. We'll start our presidential coverage and take you there throughout the night. And then on Saturday, we'll be back with a new president. And that's going to be a very interesting thing. So stay with MSNBC through the week. I'm first always at night, Parker Jackson, and then Michael Smith reports is right after me, and that he has a show tonight starting in a few minutes after us. So yeah, be sure to check him out because he always has some great stories to talk about. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll be back tomorrow and just have a great night.